You're sitting at a restaurant. The waiter sets a plate in front of you. On it, a slice of raw fish, pink, cold, completely uncooked, and you eat it without a second thought. Now imagine that same waiter brings you a raw slice of chicken. Same deal. Fresh, uncooked. You wouldn't touch it. You'd probably call the manager. But here's the thing. Both of those animals were alive just a few days ago. Both were killed, cleaned, chilled, and placed in front of you on a plate. So why does one feel perfectly normal and the other feel like a trip to the emergency room? Most people say it's just culture. It's what Japanese people have always eaten. But that answer doesn't hold up, because humans all over the world eat raw fish. Peruvians eat ceviche, Scandinavians eat gravlax, Italians eat raw tuna carpaccio. Raw fish isn't Japanese. It's almost universal. And raw land meat in almost every culture is treated like poison. So what is actually going on here? This isn't just a food question. This is a question about survival, about millions of years of evolution shaping your body's instincts without your permission, about why your gut knows things your brain never had to learn. And the answer starts somewhere most people would never think to look. It starts with a cow's intestines. Stay with me until the end, because the last part of this is going to change the way you look at every meal you've ever eaten. Here's something nobody tells you about how your beef actually gets to your plate. When a cow is slaughtered, the first thing workers have to do is remove the intestines. That's just part of the process. But inside those intestines lives a colony of bacteria so large it's almost impossible to imagine. Billions of organisms living in the warm, dark interior of a warm-blooded animal. And during slaughter, those intestines can leak. Even in clean, modern, regulated facilities, contamination happens. When it does, bacteria from the gut gets onto the surface of the meat. The most dangerous of these is a strain called E. coli O157:H7. This bacterium evolved inside warm-blooded animals. It is perfectly adapted to survive inside a body running at 37 degrees Celsius. Your body. Data from the CDC has consistently found contamination on beef surfaces, even from regulated processing facilities. This E. coli doesn't just make you sick. In severe cases, it shuts down your kidneys. In young children and elderly people, it can kill. And here's the part that makes this so much worse. When beef is ground into hamburger meat, those surface bacteria get mixed throughout the entire product. A pathogen that was only touching the outside of the muscle is now distributed through every single bite. That's the real reason a rare steak is different from a pink burger. The outside of a steak has been exposed to direct heat. The inside of a ground patty has not. Every layer of that burger, from outside to center, carries bacteria that were mixed in during processing. That isn't just a hygiene issue, that is a structural problem built into the animal itself. Now, picture a fish. That fish spent its entire life in the ocean. Cold, dark, salty. Water temperatures in the deep ocean hover around 4 degrees Celsius, often colder. The bacteria that live on that fish, the ones that evolved alongside that fish over millions of years, are cold-adapted organisms. Scientists call them psychrophilic bacteria. Psychrophilic means cold-loving. These bacteria are exquisitely designed to thrive in cold water, but place them inside a human body running at 37 degrees Celsius and they struggle. They don't have the biological machinery to survive at that temperature. Your warm body is quite literally a hostile environment for them. This isn't culture, this isn't preference, this is biology. Now compare that to the bacteria living inside a cow. A cow is warm-blooded. Its internal temperature is close to yours. The bacteria that evolved inside that cow spent millions of years adapting to a warm, nutrient-rich environment. When those bacteria enter your digestive system, they don't need to adjust. They're already home. That single difference, cold body versus warm body, is one of the most important reasons you can eat one raw and not the other. But wait, if fish bacteria can't survive in your body, why do people still get sick from raw fish? Good question, and the answer is parasites. Fish can carry small parasitic roundworms called Anisakis. These worms live embedded inside fish muscle, and if you eat them alive, they try to burrow into the lining of your stomach. The result is a condition called Anisakiasis. It was first formally described by Dutch physicians in 1960 after patients who had eaten raw herring arrived with severe abdominal pain. The sensation has been described as being stabbed from the inside. Nausea, vomiting, unbearable cramping. This is real. This is documented. This is serious. But Anisakis has a weakness: cold. If you freeze a fish at minus 20 degrees Celsius for 7 days, the parasite is dead. If you freeze it at minus 35 degrees Celsius, it's dead in 15 hours. The United States FDA has required sushi-grade fish to be frozen to these exact standards since the 1990s. When you eat sushi at a licensed restaurant, that fish was almost certainly frozen before it ever reached your plate. The parasite threat has already been neutralized before the chef even touches it. So here's what we actually have. Fish bacteria, cold-adapted, unable to thrive in your body; fish parasites, destroyed by industrial freezing; land animal bacteria, warm adapted, perfectly suited to survive inside you. The freezer doesn't fix that problem, only heat does. But here's what's fascinating. Humans have been eating raw fish for a very, very long time, far longer than any written record. When archaeologists excavated ancient coastal sites in South Africa, sites like Blombos Cave and Pinnacle Point, they found evidence of shellfish consumption going back over 160,000 years. 160,000 years. That's not a food trend. That's a survival strategy older than our species as we know it. Imagine being one of those early humans. You're standing on a coastline with no tools, no fire, no way to preserve food. The ocean is right there. It is full of protein, and you have no idea what's safe. So you eat, and you watch. You watch who gets sick, you watch who doesn't. You watch which creatures smell wrong, which ones taste wrong. And slowly, over generations, the humans who tolerated ocean food survived. The ones who couldn't died of infection, or starved rather than risk it. Meanwhile, inland humans were dealing with entirely different animals: wild boar, deer, the ancient ancestor of cattle. These warm-blooded animals carried bacteria adapted to warm bodies. They carried tapeworms, trichinella, organisms that thrived in the dark warmth of a human gut. And the inland humans who cooked their meat, they survived. The ones who ate it raw paid for it. Over tens of thousands of generations, that selection pressure carved itself into your instincts. Your body remembers the lesson, even if your brain never learned it. Now let's talk about something that seems to completely break the rules: ceviche. In Peru and across Latin America, raw fish is marinated in lime juice. The citric acid transforms the texture of the fish so completely it looks as if it has been cooked. It turns firm. It turns opaque. But chemically. No heat was applied. What the acid actually does is denature the proteins. It changes the molecular structure of the muscle fiber. A 1992 study published in the Journal of Food Protection found that citric acid significantly reduces the bacterial load in raw fish, especially Vibrio bacteria, which are common in raw shellfish and tropical ocean species. So the acid is doing real biological work. It is neutralizing specific threats. But it is not a complete replacement for heat or freezing. Some pathogens survive acid exposure, and yet ceviche cultures have eaten this way for thousands of years without collapse. The same evolutionary logic applies. The people who tolerated it survived. Their children survived. The tradition continued. What they built into their cuisine wasn't recklessness. It was accumulated knowledge they couldn't yet name. Here's the part that should make you think. We actually eat raw meat more than most people admit. Steak tartare, raw ground beef, seasoned, cold, served in fine restaurants across Europe. Beef carpaccio, paper-thin slices of completely raw beef dressed in olive oil. Runny yolk, the center of a soft egg, is essentially raw protein. We consume raw animal products constantly. We just don't do it carelessly. What all of these have in common is sourcing and structure. Steak tartare is prepared from high-quality whole muscle cuts, not ground product. The surface meat, where contamination concentrates, is removed or handled with precision. This isn't a contradiction of everything we've discussed. This is the same logic applied with more care. The question was never simply, is raw safe? The question has always been which raw things, from which animals, handled which way, prepared under which conditions. Your ancestors answered that question. They answered it with their lives, and your body knows all of this, even if you've never thought about it. Think about the last time you smelled meat that had gone bad. Your entire body reacted before your brain had a chance to process it. The flinch, the nausea, the reflex to pull back. That wasn't learned behavior. That was evolution running an ancient calculation. Your disgust response is one of the oldest systems in your body. It evolved not to protect you from embarrassment. It evolved to protect you from death. Every time it fires in the presence of rotting food, it is executing a program that was written in the bodies of every ancestor who ate the wrong thing and didn't survive to warn you. They couldn't speak. They couldn't write. But their deaths shaped your instincts. The warning traveled through your biology, not through language. So the next time you sit down to a plate of sushi, pause for a moment. Really think about what that moment represents. It's not just a meal. It's the end of a 160,000-year story. A story of coastal humans testing the ocean one creature at a time. A story of cold water bacteria that never adapted to the temperature inside you. A story of parasites defeated by ice. A story of your ancestors dying slowly so that you could know what safe means. You didn't consciously decide to trust raw fish. Your entire evolutionary history made that decision for you. And the raw chicken you'd never touch? Your history decided that too. You just can't remember why. Because the people who ate it didn't get to tell anyone what happened next. Their bodies were the warning. And somehow, across 160,000 years, the message still got through.